Thank you for tuning in to WDRB Media, the voice of the community. The only station giving you double the information and inspiration. You're listening to Perky Collar, and I'm your host, David M. Frankel. And today we have two special guests, Gerald Gordon and Chris Martin, are both the founders of Reference Me. How are you guys?
Doing fantastic.
Doing well.
How are you?
Thank you for having us on.
Thank you for joining us. So tell us a little bit about each yourselves and about Reference Me. What is it? How does it work? And why did you start this business?
Fantastic. You want to start first, Chris?
Well, actually, you should probably. This originated with you, so
Okay.
you start on it, and I'll fill in the blanks.
Sure, no problem. The reason why we thought of Reference Me was to solve a common problem. When people are looking to find a job or they're interested in, I would say, building up their reputation, right now that's done via a resume. Mm-hmm. So you walk in with your resume, you have everything filled out, and you're competing against many people. So depending on what you say in your resume would move you to the top of the stack or to the bottom of the stack.
Sure.
But I had a unique situation where my wife, who is a physical therapist, she would go to all of these different facilities, and every time she goes to a new facility for work, they say, not only do we want your resume, we also want your references.
Sure.
And she said it's such a headache to go to a company, know that you got the job, but they can't do anything until they have the references in their hand. And so she looked at me square in the face and said, you need to build something so that I can carry my references around. And I thought about it a little bit to try to figure out, is there a way we can do this that would be unique and not similar to something that you would do on Facebook or LinkedIn? And what we found after doing research is there's nothing out there that says this is certified references that you can take to a job and they can look it up and determine, wow, this person has experience in this particular area. So if you were to think about it in a different way, we want to transform the market from looking at your resume to actually looking at just your references. That way, I'm looking at your skill set, your experience through the eyes of somebody who's actually has worked for you. Mm-hmm. And it became a very interesting task because when we started writing the software and doing focus groups, we realized that there are other things that we can tie into this process. Now, me and Chris have worked together on a couple of different engagements. We are also consultants where we help people who just want to start businesses and they don't know where to start. Right. They see all this information on the web. They see all this information about in books saying how you can start a business, but practically, how do you actually do it?
Right.
And me and Chris came up with a system that we actually put in front of people. We walk them through this system, and at the end of that system, they're able to feel confident that they started their business correctly, that they got their first foot in the door, and they get exposure to other businesses who have gone through our teaching program.
Excellent.
And that was a labor of love as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's a lot of people feel that way as they have their corporate job and they want to take a leap of faith. They want to become an entrepreneur. They want to be a business owner, but they don't know where to start. They're afraid to start. And it sounds like this consultation business you've started at least paves the way, at least initially, to give them some stepping stones, some milestones they can set, some goals they can set for themselves to make it less nerve-wracking and make it a smoother transition. Also, I'm sure calming the family, because I'm sure the family's like, don't leave your job. It's stable. That's what my dad did and my grandpa did. And you're kind of breaking down multi-generational scenarios by having your own business. So they're probably freaking out.
Yeah, most
so
definitely.
To have a support system with them is very crucial.
Yeah. We just to kind of build on that a little bit. So the consulting company that Gerald and I started is called AMP Consulting. So it stands for Achieve Maximum Potential Consulting. That's actually something we're still doing to this day. We've got a few different companies that have us on retainer that we're still consulting with. But to Gerald's point, we actually held a few seminars where we advertised around Charlotte and had people coming in. And it was all about Business Startup 101. How do you look at the market viability of your idea? How do you write a business plan? How do you put together your management team and really see if you've got an opportunity? It's just something that Gerald and I both found that we both had a skill set for, and we're both passionate about and love to share it with others. So we've continued to do that, but sort of growing out of that process, we decided to create Reference Me. Obviously, Gerald is a software engineer, and you just heard his story about how the idea was sort of sparked. But what we found was that in talking to a lot of different people, you can look at two different people's resumes, and they both have basically the same amount of experience, number of years, places they've worked, things of that nature. But those resumes don't talk to the quality of their work or what type of person they were in the workplace. Right. So what we found is that many people are just going to LinkedIn to look at their profile or Facebook, or have to call around to a bunch of references that really don't have time to talk to you. So we found that if you could collect those professional references in a centralized location, but then find out a way to authenticate them, to validate them, that they are true and factual, not just the content of the reference, but the person who gave it as well, there was a lot of value in that. And if you could put it online and share it to all of your social media sites, you've essentially got a portable reputation manager that you can take around anywhere. So not just applying for jobs, but you have to apply to get into grad school with letters of recommendation. You can use it for that. Anybody that's a contractor, if you're a landscaper or a roofer or a carpenter and you need good references, those are references that can be written out and validated online and been sent to people. So as Gerald mentioned, we're really trying to sort of change the industry focus here, and so far we're starting to gain a lot of traction with it.
That's exciting. I know in high school even they have to have references from teachers in order to get into
exactly.
college. So that'd be another aspect that I don't know if you've thought of before, but my daughter's a senior in high school, so I'm dealing with all the application process.
Yeah, exactly.
She has to go through to get into the schools that she wants to get into.
Yep. And we, as a human race, we need to connect with people, not with machines. And that's one of the things that I wanted to bring forth with the Reference Me project, is the fact that when somebody else says something about you and you work with them and they're passionate about what they say, that resonates with anybody else who's reading and listening to you. But when I think of a resume, I'm only looking at what you have said. I can't see the passion and the excitement that somebody has worked with you about how great things are. And the reason why I'm talking to you from this perspective is that most likely you're not going to get a bad reference. You're going to ask somebody who's going to give you a good reference, right?
Exactly right.
But at the end of the day, if that person is passionate about what you've done, it will show through and make you a more qualified candidate. Now, there is another aspect of this which kind of birthed out of the fact that we call it reputation manager. And what we mean by that is there may be people who have a checkered past. They've done some things that they weren't proud of, and now they're trying to get back on track. And what better way to do that than to have proven references of all the different places that you worked to say, yes, my background check may not look the way I want it to look, but I've worked with these 5 different companies and all of them had great things to say about my work. So I've taken a situation that seemed hopeless, where you cannot find a job because you had a checkered past, and now I'm giving you an opportunity to repair your reputation.
And your work ethic and the quality of your work that you've done. Even if you had a blip in your experiences in your life, you still have a chance to resurrect that, so to speak. So help me understand, how does the reference process work? Is it an audio recording? Is it video? Is it written like a resume? How does a future employer receive these Reference Me tutorials or references?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I can take that. So we actually came up with a proven methodology for getting, like I said, not only the verifying the content of the reference, but the person who gave it as well. So we actually have a professional call center that will actually call in to verify the identity of the person that they're speaking with, so they can do it basically through a licensing check, like through a driver's license and a couple of other methods. Then they actually go in and they start asking various questions about the content of what they wrote, verifying that they actually worked there together, the various things that they claimed that person did, the projects they worked on, just a little bit of everything.
Reviewing the resume with the reference.
Right, with the reference. And then, of course, once that the call center is able to validate every single piece of information that's on there, as well as the person that they're talking to, then they actually stamp it as verified, as true by Reference Me, and it shows up in that person's profile. But just to kind of compound on that a little bit, through that system actually flows forward into the collection process for the references as well. So let's say, for example, I said, hey, I want you to write a reference for me. Your first thought is, oh man, what am I going to put in this reference? I don't have time for this, you know? So we solve that problem as well, because the whole entire system automates that process so that it actually will automatically send out a pre-made template request for you to say, hey, give me a reference. That person can click on the link right in the email, and then it walks them through a set of questions that makes it easy and effortless to create that reference. And once it's done, it's submitted back into the system and it shows up on the person's profile. So we've taken the pain out of gathering references as well. And then, of course, the business has grown. Because we want to do full reputation management, we can now offer licensing and credentialing checks for, let's say, people that work in the healthcare industry, and then also background checks as well.
Excellent. You mentioned it being very simple. Is it simply agree, strongly disagree type questions, or what type of questions does the reference receive?
We try to put a mix of things in there.
Okay.
Because we want to be able to give that opportunity to each person, and to do that, it has to be a plethora of questions depending on what industry you're in.
I see. Okay.
Now, if you're in the industry of trying to hire someone, then the type of questions would be affiliated with that. So, for example, I may be asking you a specific project that you worked on. Tell us about it. How did you contribute to this project?
Okay.
And then after the person writes that reference, when we do the validation, we have them confirm that the actual project that you worked on yielded these type of results. And oh, by the way, did you work at the company at the same time that they wrote this reference?
Right.
Because all of those things matter that will determine whether we feel that this reference is authentic or not. Now, can you imagine a world where everybody is no longer using the resume as the primary source of how skillful somebody is, but instead they rely heavily on the reference, the experience. And this is really important because I've had situations even at work where the person who actually gave us the resume was not the same person and actually came in for the job.
Wow.
And this helps us alleviate that, because we're going to pay more attention to what the people who have written the reference say about you versus just what you give me in your resume.
Makes sense. And I think, from my experience, the online job search world has changed, drastically from 5 or 10 years ago. Now it's pretty much they do a search on all the resumes they've received for certain keywords to show that they meet the qualification. And then from there, it's like eeny, meeny, miny, mo. How do I pick?
Right.
100 resumes I have, they all have the keywords we're looking for. How do I decide of these 100, who's the best guy for this, or this woman, for this one spot that's available, or three spots that are available?
They start checking all the social
media. You start bringing them all in for interviews. No one has time to interview 100 people.
That's right.
So you start checking social media for things that are inappropriate, I guess. You start looking for social media for anything that can help you weed out that 100.
That's
right. The thing that we're finding is social media, their focus is really on connecting people, right? I mean, and so yes, some social media out there has things where you can write a referral or a reference for somebody, but you can see it's really not a priority for them, because they'll typically place that information at the bottom of the profile, and it gets lost amongst all the other functionality. But there's zero fail-safes in place for people creating false information. And so we found that social media is saturated with fake info. People will create false profiles so that they can add to their number of connections or endorse themselves for certain skill sets or write their own reference for themselves. And that stuff is rampant. Unfortunately, that's what all the companies look at for their hiring decision. So we've sort of solved that problem with Reference Me.
Yeah, I remember it used to be upon request. Like, you just give a resume, and you didn't feel like filling out all the references. And it's always the same references for most people.
That's right.
You have previous employers, good friends, people will always say good things, even if it's not all true. They they'll say good things for you. But it's always, I'll just do that later. Available upon request. So that way, every job you're applying to, you don't have to give them the same list.
You always put your aunt.
Your friends are being bombarded by phone calls.
Your friend or your family member is always going to give you a good recommendation.
Good reference, right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. So it's nice to be able to expand it to other people, and especially if you keep it open-ended, not just strongly agree, strongly disagree. It's more of an essay or more open-ended question.
Exactly.
Someone's not going to take the time to give you if they're going to take the time to listen and read about the essay, they're obviously very vested in helping that person.
That's right.
Versus just taking a couple seconds to give us your feedback. I think right now we're bombarded with feedback surveys.
Yep.
You go to a hotel, you get an email. You go to a restaurant, you get an email. How was your service? And it's great. They want feedback, but it's like we're getting so much now.
Yeah.
That most people just click it and say no. And it keeps hitting you day after day after day until you fill out a darn survey.
Yeah.
And it keeps pinging you. And finally, you just fill out the survey so it goes away. So it's
Right.
not bothering you.
And you may not be answering it truthfully in
Correct.
that regard too.
Or maybe there's a problem that you just don't want to talk about. Or maybe
Right.
there's good service, and because there's such great service, you don't feel like there's a need to talk about it.
Yeah.
And if there's a bad service, then you feel the need to fill out a survey.
Or I'm
That's
going to
right.
answer negatively just because you keep bombarding me with surveys.
Right. Everything's fine until I got the survey.
That's right, yeah.
That's right.
So that can happen as well. Well, it sounds like Reference Me is cutting edge and definitely gives you a whole new perspective on the job search. So tell me some of the things you've gone up against, because obviously being an entrepreneur and being innovative, you're going to have a lot of people say, that's dumb. Are you kidding me?
That's
You've been doing
right.
this forever. Oh, I don't believe what you're doing is a good idea. Tell me some of the obstacles you've overcome to show your fortitude and your drive as an entrepreneur, not to give up and to keep your head up and keep driving forward. And then also give me a success story of someone that said, I'm so glad you're doing this because you helped us find the right person.
Okay. Two things. Do you mind if I put the website out there?
Oh, sure. Please do. How do we find
the
you?
The website is www.referenceme.today.
.today. Okay.
Not .com, but .today. We did that on purpose.
Okay.
Now, as far as I call them horror stories, one of the things as an entrepreneur you'll find is that it's easier to quit than to continue to move forward. And not just with Reference Me, with other businesses that I've been a part of, when you look at, in my opinion, the regulation associated with business, it seems to be very trying at times. For example, if you're in New York and you want to start a business, dealing with the tax laws and those things like that can easily discourage you because they put so many barriers in place that if they would just remove those barriers to make it easier for entrepreneurs to just start up a business, you can go further. I had a situation where I was dealing with taxes, and if you don't put everything in each quarter, then they penalize you at the end of the year, and you didn't even realize that they expected you to send a 0 tax return every 3 months.
Right.
That was one big area in which I'm glad now that I use a CPA to actually do that type of work where I don't have to run into these penalties coming in at the end of the year.
Right.
Another horror, I won't call them horror stories, but another thing to watch out for is you got to make sure you document your business. A lot of people have a great idea and then they don't write anything down.
Right.
Before I start any venture, I write on paper, line for line, what I want to achieve, how I want to achieve it, and the architecture around why I think this business would be important to me and make me passionate about what I'm doing. Once that's in place, then it's easy for me to take a step and towards developing and building the business. And so without doing that, you run the risk of not thinking about all the different pieces associated with your venture. And can you imagine actually getting ready to be successful and then they're asking you simple questions, did you cover these particular areas, and you can't answer them, and you lose a big sale because you were not prepared.
So how do you get past the naysayers? Because obviously it's a new idea, it's different, it changes how business is done. How do you get past the naysayers that are out there that say, oh, we don't need that service?
That's a good question.
Yeah, so that's probably the most common feedback we get is, well, how is this different than LinkedIn?
Right.
And then I have to tell them sort of the story that I told you earlier, right? Where there's no integrity to the information that's on the social media site. Additionally, the social media sites, like I said, are really focused on connecting people, not on helping to manage your reputation. And so it really makes a difference when I start explaining to them a real life scenario of have two people with the same experience, but one person has got this portable reputation link that they can send you, and you go on there and it already has all these great things that have been said about you, and oh look, they've got a reference from the VP of the last company that they worked for. Right. Well, now who's the stronger candidate? Exactly. Right? The one that's got those references that are validated. It doesn't matter what their Facebook or LinkedIn profile said, because you like I said, you can create fake data out there.
Right.
And so once we explain it to them in that way, and then we also sort of give them real life examples of, let's say you're going to apply for something where a background check is required and you need references and things of that nature. If you go ahead and get those completed and they're in your portable reputation manager, and you can come to the hiring person right up front and say, here's all of my information.
Right.
I mean, it leaves a lot better impression. I mean, you really stand out from the rest of the candidates in getting a job or getting accepted to the association that you're applying for, or, whatever the situation is. I mean, once you kind of break it down and give them a real life scenario, then it sort of clicks, and then people go, oh, I get it now. Yeah, that makes sense. But I think overcoming that first reaction of, well, how are you different than what I'm already using, is the biggest challenge.
I'll also add into this too. When we first did Reference Me, we spent some time in a couple of venture capitalists. They allowed us to present our idea. And while we were talking to them, they did find a big bottleneck in what we were doing. Because first we just had the application. And then we had the notion of, we need to verify these references. Well, the person said, how are you going to scale?
No.
How are you going to call all of these people? If you get 100 people in a month, how is that going to work?
Right.
And right at that moment, me and Chris, we talked about it, and we said, we need to change our strategy, because what that person has brought up it's key to what we're trying to accomplish.
Right.
If we get 1,000 people today that uses Reference Me, hey, all of you out there, and then all of a sudden we can't fulfill the need of providing that completed reference within 48 hours, then our business tanks.
Correct.
And as an entrepreneur, it's very important to take in that information, understand the stuff that's just somebody saying it because they're not happy about their life and they're projecting that on you, or if this is a valid concern and you need to be able to course correct. And what me and Chris did was we went back to the drawing board and found out we need additional bodies out there that can actually do the references the same way that I would and the same way that Chris would, or any professional person in industry that's looking for a job. And that's when we were able to actually find a company that did that. Now, what's really important about this is that the things that I'm not strong at, I need to find the people who do that. I shouldn't be the one to do everything for the business. I need to be able to be strong in the areas that I'm strong in. And so Chris is very good in operations. I'm very good with technology. I'm going to stay in my lane. But I am going to hire somebody who has more experience in the areas that I need to go, especially if it's critical to my business.
Yeah, it's business process outsourcing.
So since you each have your different avenues of expertise, how do you handle the rejection? Because you each process things differently. How do you handle like the feedback you got? Well, you can't scale your business. Next.
Yeah.
And that's tough for an entrepreneur to be dismissed like that. We talked earlier a little bit about Shark Tank off the air. When you're all of a sudden you don't move on to the next round, it's like, what did I do wrong? Give me some feedback. And they give you no feedback, by the way.
Yes, none.
Chris and I both auditioned for Shark Tank. They just tell you no feedback at all, which is painful to me. So how do you, with this Reference Me, when someone just says, no, it's not going to work, how do you pick yourself up and keep going? Because I think that's the biggest thing people fear as someone that has a corporate job now, to jump into the entrepreneurial world and deal with rejection. Because in school you're told, don't fail, don't fail, don't fail. But failure is actually what gets you to success.
Oh, yes.
So the more you fail, the faster you're going to succeed.
Yep.
Obviously you want to learn from your mistakes. That's a key element as well. But there are certain points where you feel like, hey, we failed and we just got to pick ourselves up. Or like they said, hey, you can't scale this. You then took a step back and said, that's a great point. We failed at scaling, so now we're going to modify the company and modify our application.
Exactly.
So the next presentation, we have an answer to that question.
That's right.
So is that how you proceeded?
Yeah, it's a mindset. I mean, every failure is another opportunity for success, right? I mean, if they tell us no, we immediately realize that if they had that pushback and that rejection and that thought, another person out there is going to think the same way. That's something that we need to address within the business model itself. So every time we get a no, or I don't know if that's going to work, or I hear, well, how are you different? I want to come up with another reason that we're different, another reason why we can address their concerns. I think because Gerald and I have sought out that type of feedback, the business model and the software just keeps getting better and better and better. We just keep getting better at what we do, and I think that's motivating to see where we've come from and where we are now and how we're changing the industry.
And how do you disconnect though? Because to me, my product, the Perky Collar, that's my baby.
Yeah.
Someone says, I don't like your collar for this. You just called my baby ugly, didn't you?
Yeah, exactly.
We're no longer friends. I'm done. So how do you move on when someone says your product is ugly, your product's not going to work? How do you have the mental toughness to say, well, I appreciate your feedback, or how could you be open? I think the key is really to be open-minded to read the feedback to begin with.
Yeah.
Go to people with an open mind, and regardless what they say, friend or not friend, I think the key is to get away from friends because they're going to try and be nice to you just because they're your friends. But how do you get feedback? Obviously, once you're patent pending, you're protected. We'll make sure we're very clear about that. How do you get the feedback and stay open-minded and take that feedback as constructive and not take it personally? That's a tough skill to acquire.
I'm going to even add on to that. It's a tough skill to acquire if it's spontaneous.
Okay.
I always like to be prepared before I go into an opportunity way ahead of time so that I'm looking at, if I get a rejection, I'm prepared for it. But it's more of a challenge if you're just having a conversation by somebody you admire and then they beat you up.
Yeah.
Sure.
But as an entrepreneur, it's important to actually have as Chris mentioned earlier, a mindset. You know that if I talk to 10 people, 3 of them may really like it and 7 may not. And you build that up by
Is it they may not like it, or is it they don't get it? Because that's what I find is that a lot of times it's people that just don't get it yet. They're not ready for me yet. It's either a yes, it's a no, or I'm not ready.
Yeah.
More than it is a no.
That's right.
As well?
Yeah.
I would say yes. We've come through, we've done a focus group, and we see this side of the room gets it.
Right.
This side of the room doesn't get it
Why
at
don't
all.
you get it? You wanna shake 'em.
And it's not a no. A lot of times it is just, let me give you more information until it clicks. And then they start telling us, oh, you know how else you could use this?
Right.
And we go, they
Now
get
you
it.
get it.
And then I go, oh, Gerald, there's another business segment we can go into.
And that's some of the things that we realize is that when you do something that you have a passion about, nothing would stop you if you have a passion about it. If you go into a business just for money, or you're going into a business because you're not excited about what you're doing, then it will be easy to deter you. To me, an entrepreneur needs to have that grit and that passion for what they're doing. And if they have that grit and that passion for what they're doing, there's never really a failure. It's only a factor of when it's going to happen. It's not a factor of when you're going to stop.
Or a speed bump, so to speak.
Yeah.
You just not go as fast as you want to go, but you're still moving forward. It's just not going to be as fast as you want to go.
Right, and to your point, there is some maturity that has to come along with it to be able to tell the difference between the honest critic, and someone that's giving you, constructive feedback, or someone who's just trying to put you down. Right. I mean, you definitely have to have that a maturity about you to understand that, because if someone's giving you honest, constructive criticism, you need to take it to heart and actually take the opportunity to address it and resolve that issue. But sometimes it's hard to take the people that just want to beat you down for the sense of beating you down. They just don't get it. They don't like it. There's nothing constructive about what they're saying, and you got to have tough skin. I mean, it's just part of being an entrepreneur.
It's almost as if because they didn't think of it, it's not a good idea.
That's exactly right.
What are you talking about? Just because you didn't think, you should embrace it. It's a great idea.
That's right.
You can realize what I've come up with, but you're all nasty and mean to me because it wasn't your right. It just it's baffling as to how some people's mentality is. To tear you down because it wasn't their brilliant idea.
You can
really
only
a shame because they should celebrate other people's
Most
successes.
definitely.
And maybe there's other businesses or other ventures down the road they could do together.
Yeah, you can only control how you deliver the information. You cannot control how they take it.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So, give me an example of a client or an individual that has embraced Reference Me and sings your praises now as a result.
Well, actually, truthfully, we just launched. I mean, this has been exactly 1 month now. Actually, it's not even. What's today's date? Yeah. It's right at a month that we've launched. So we've got 3 different companies in the pipeline that we're working with right now that we're working on signing.
So it's coming soon then.
So it's coming soon, yeah. So we really are focused up front. We've got 3 different focuses, right? So we have the individuals that sign up for an account, right? So we just call that our user base. We have companies that sign up for an enterprise subscription. We basically become an extension of their HR, an arm of their HR, right, to actually do all of this checks. And then we also have a partnership program. So for companies like, that are like a staffing and recruiting firm, we want them to integrate Reference Me. We'll give it to them for free. They integrate it into their process, and they make all of their candidates that come through sign up for accounts. And it's to the candidate's benefit because when they sign up, that's portable. They get to take it with them if they go somewhere else. And so right now, our main focus right up front is going to be on a few of these enterprise deals to get our cash flow rolling. From cash flow, we're going to start marketing to build up the user base, and that's our strategy right now going forward. So we don't have a client success story, but we're very, very close to having one.
Is there a recruiting company you'd like to reach out to right now? Here's your chance. Robert Half.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yes. A crew partners.
There you go.
Yeah.
They're on our wish list right now.
Yeah.
You're really not doing a great job placing people until you have Reference Me as a source.
Thank you.
To place your clients properly.
That's right. And we want to give you another unique and innovative way. So if you're a company that you're low on technology, but you still need to feel like you're connected with the community on cutting edge things, Reference Me is cutting edge. It is going to be the new way that employees, employers, and people are interested in seeing the great work that you have done. And I believe that Reference Me would be that newest tool to do that. By the way, Reference Me came from my daughter. She looked at it. It used to be called Shared Reference. And she looked at it and said, you should call this REME.
REME?
Which is Reference Me.
Yep.
So I give her a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, that's half the battle.
Yeah, exactly. Got to name it.
Make
Yeah.
sure she gets her percentage.
That's right.
That's right.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to get into other things you're doing, because Reference Me, give the listeners one more time how they find Reference Me again, the website.
You find Reference Me at www.referenceme.today.
Today. Excellent. So I think we thoroughly covered Reference Me, but I know you guys do so much more. So let's touch on some of the other things you do, and then we'll wrap up the show.
Okay.
I know you're both inventors, and I'm an inventor, so it's nice to have 3 inventors in the room.
Yes.
Doesn't happen very often in Charlotte. So tell us a little bit more about other things you've invented, and kind of what stage they're in, and a little bit about those products or apps or services.
Okay. I guess I'll start. I have 4 patents.
Okay.
I've been fortunate.
Congratulations. That's not easy.
Thank you. I've been fortunate to be able to work for a company in which they promoted engineers to write patents. And I put a group of us together, and we sat down and said, let's continue to build on this ability, this scientific method of how we actually build a patent. And one of the patents I'm most proud of happened about 18 years ago.
Wow.
And it was a way to visualize how we work with the computer. Right now, when you deal with computer graphics or anything of that nature, it really is a 2D feel. And what I mean by that is that I want to be able to interact in, like how we say virtual reality. I want to do that when I'm working in a computer system. And before we started talking about virtual reality, I built a way that we can interact with the software application. I called it Opacity Desktop with Depth Perception. And what that means is by just changing something to translucent or changing the size of something gives you a sense of whether you're going deeper into the computer or you're coming front face to the computer. And so putting that in as a patent, the company saw it to be used for security purposes, so that when different profiles come up to the machine, they're able to change the security parameters just by going deeper into the screen versus being on the surface of the screen.
Wow.
And I never thought of it as being part of a security aspect. I just thought of it as a way of life. Why do we have to keep doing things in 2D when the life around us is in 3D or even 4D?
Sure.
And that was what that first patent was about. Most proud of that one.
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah. Well, so I guess it's going on 2 years ago. So I'm passionate about disc golf. Most people don't know it unless they're into the sport, but Charlotte is the disc golf capital of the country. We have over 40 courses in and around the city here, and it's one of the fastest growing sports. There's over 1 million players in the country, and it's growing at about 9% a year.
Wow.
So one of the common problems when playing disc golf is the loss of your disc when you're playing, and then you've got to go hunt for it out in the woods. And the thing that's bad about that is, with the game of ball golf, if you lose your ball, it's no big deal. You take another ball out of your bag. You're out, $3 or $4, depending upon the brand of ball that you have, and you keep playing, and it's no big deal. Well, with disc golf, when you lose your disc, it's like losing your club. You lose the functionality and flight pattern of that disc. And people become really attached to their discs. They really like them. So basically, every disc golf player has wished for an easier way to find discs, and everyone's had the idea of somehow putting electronics on the disc.
Tracking devices.
Yeah, exactly. But nobody took the time and effort to do it. So